All right, welcome back to another episode of Dried Blood. How do you all feel after that?
I'm exhausted.
I'm gonna write fanfic about a relationship, so it's like
that ending.
I don't care.
I don't know. As soon as like the ending started like to hit, I like, why is this emotional? Why is this actually like I feel for this?
Yes.
D'Angelo just has the ability to pull heartstrings from nowhere.
We're both writers, so it's like if I'm gonna play with someone so good looking, I'm at least gonna flirt with his character. So like,
I can't resist.
My biggest question there, and I was trying to remind you a little bit, maybe, but you know, obviously you do what you want, but I'm like thinking like, why isn't he misty stepping out of the water?
Oh, it was a second level spell, so I used all my spell slots. Yeah.
No!
So
Okay, that clears it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
looked through everything, like everything hardcore.
Hero point to get the spell slot
Yep.
back.
Yes.
Misty step.
Yeah, I didn't know if I could do that.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Just ask.
Oh, got it.
That's always the hardest part. It's like, can I ask this? That I think every player has that moment. Like,
Could
should
I
I
just
ask
completely
this?
shatter the rules?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
you
you
can't
never
hear.
know at any table, like, how far can I push this? How far can I push my DM and they'll let me get away with?
Yeah.
And you don't know until, years later.
Ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah.
I just you talked about Misty stepping so many times during the match.
I know. I wanted to use it so bad, but I was a centaur. You know, it was like double. You know, because I always play every single character that I play is a paladin, oath of the ancients. You know.
Okay.
So so I know their toolkit enough to be able to use it. But then this is the first time I ever chose a centaur because usually I do an orc. So yeah, and I was like, oh man, there's no reason to have misstep. So it's like. It was still fun though. It was really good. Yeah.
It was beautiful.
I love
it. It was a traumatic ending for what the hell is my even character's name? Whatever.
Grickle back.
Grickle.
Yeah, there you go.
It kept changing a little bit.
It started off with like it was supposed to be like this bug sound, and then it just turned into like, hold on, I should have made this easy.
No one could keep up with it. It evolved. It's a living thing all on its own.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah. And you can tell I'm really good at improv because I named my animal literally my name, but a little bit longer. That's my
there you go.
Because once you make a decision, you should definitely buckle down on it. So
exactly.
This is hard. Exactly. Let's make things harder.
I mean, it's well, let's keep it in perspective here. I mean, you were up against another mount who was a human named Bruce. So, the creative juices were definitely flowing.
Oh,
yes.
Man. If only I were a human also, and then the difference in reactions that would have been. Right? Yes. You just started writing on top of a human as a centaur.
So good.
I have to say, I loved how both of you, just as you described your characters, really brought it to life, but also gave us as DMs a lot to play with. Like for both of you, like, okay, are you allergic to it? All right, you're spinning around with your scimitars. Let's see how well you're doing this, right? Like now it prompts an interesting visual interaction. Yeah, it's like okay, but that's because, and I don't ever hope that these feel like consequences, right? But at the same time, it allows you to think about like, how do I go beyond of just the roles have to tell me things, or the DM tells me things, but I get to add things to the story that help me think about how I can influence the game. And I thought that was really beautiful and fun to do. Even though for both of you, it didn't work out well.
Well, I think that's great to bring that up because you just said like I hope they don't come off as like this certain way. Yeah. I think it's great to bring them up if there's like two actual like if you do good on it, then you get something good, or if you do bad on it, then you get something bad. It just happened that we all do bad, but like,
made for great. Yeah, it was so good. Yeah.
Inspo, you could have gotten bonus health from it. Like, no.
Oh God, yes.
And then your second item you got was another healing.
Oh my!
And for a split second, I was like, "Oh man, he's gonna fight." Oh wait, he's allergic.
Yep, exactly.
I was just looking at this table I have, and I'm like, you rolled a 1 both times, and for the item, and then the D100 was literally like above 95 was a potion of greater healing, and then between like 2 and 50 was a regular one, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you just rolled both of these.
When I rarely get the chance to be a player. Like I've been in D&D, or I've been playing TB2 RPGs since like 2008. So the chance I get to be a player, I always go hard on being weird and like unexpected. So it was like I loved every moment of it because every time.
Every time. That's why I'm a Thri-Kreen, for God's sakes. Like every time.
I
I was
know.
a Hippo last time. I was a Geth,
Yeah.
I think, last time.
Yeah.
I just try to go outside of the box and do things that people don't
Yeah,
think
I've never
about.
played a centaur. Yeah, because everyone always goes like, elf or like, dwarf or something like that. But I always want to explore the other ones, like, let me be a taxi or something.
Yeah.
So it's
that's
cool.
actually funny. You were a GIF last time on the last time you
Mhm.
were on, Dan. So like you were making your way through the Spelljammer book.
Spelljammer book.
Just-
I didn't even think about it, but yeah. Yep.
But as both of you point out, like it's exciting, and why we love TTRPGs is that it allows us to explore perspectives and action items that we wouldn't normally have available. Like half the time I was asking, like, what is the biology of a Thri-Kreen? Because I have no idea. You have 2 arms or 4 arms. How many eyes do you
Mhm.
have? I mean, like you're naked. What does that mean to us? So like simple things like that, or even the centaur, like, oh, okay, you're like an at when we try to trip you, and those sort of elements. Like it now changes our approach and forces us to not only be creative, but to empathize in very fresh ways. And I know sometimes it's easy to empathize and get into different emotions that way, but when you're really put out of your comfort zone, even playing characters that feel wildly different, help us explore it almost in a safer way at times, because it can be a way that we can open that lens up. So I really love the exploratory options that you both chose in a fast pace, back to back battle, because it forced you to get into it really quickly and to not overly rely on the character sheet, which
Mhm.
can really bog things down and then
Mhm.
destroy the creativity behind it.
Yeah, one of the like complaints or whatever about D&D 5e is how slow combat is. So being able to or step out of that and have more of a narrative feel to it is really
Mhm.
nice to be able to,
Mhm.
because all we did was hack and slash each other because we're like, what were you, a
Yeah.
fighter / rogue or something like that?
Fighter rogue. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and I was a paladin, so we literally just smacked each other a ton.
Mhm.
But it was more exciting because we added those flares. So it was really good. Yeah.
Yes,
nice.
yes. And then it becomes interesting. It's like, yes, especially when
And
it's messy.
And
Yeah.
I know.
will
And
they?
the thing
Won't
is,
they?
and having good personality, like as like characters and players to play that character, also just like during combat, like the lines that we say in between, the lines we say when things happen, that adds to like a story that isn't initially just like in the book as rules. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you shoot the arrow, you do the damage, you move on. But
Mhm.
like, it's like, no, you don't just do that. You do all these other things that are wildly happening to your character and explain that. And that to me is where
Mhm.
creativity comes into play, where, well, being a DM is like one of the biggest things for me is to describe everything that is happening, like
Mhm.
Yep.
to give my players and give the audience a like a real true like description so that they can picture it in their head. So like during combat, when I'm like, yeah, he lays down like a cockroach, or oh yeah, he changes his like carapace to a different color, or oh, he does all these other things. Those don't matter, but like it's always fun to like describe them in a way that makes sense.
But then it allows your opponent also to think, because this is also a very interesting space, and why I love also PvP, because in other narratives it's easy to feel like, yes, of course we're the good guy, those are the bad guys, and we're killing them, and it doesn't really matter to know who their stories are or to react and engage in them. But I'm sorry we're going a little overtime, but I love the interaction the two of you had,
Mhm.
That's fine.
because we got little character moments that allowed you all have to react to one another, and not like, yeah, they're the bad guy, I have to murder them, but like I see them as a person, and I'm going to challenge myself to be better than them in this instance, and to accept their, I mean, well, neither of you are humans, but the humanity in
Yeah.
those. And that's what made the fight also very interesting, beyond like, I'm going to murder you. It was also like, I want to save you now. I have
There's
mixed
something behind
emotions
that.
about
There's
how
something
this
behind it.
feels. Yes.
Yeah.
So it became very interesting. And I love complicated and interesting.
Well, that's wonderful too, because like having a player like D'Angelo is amazing, because bouncing ideas off of what he'd already given me, like like he's being
Mhm.
super nice to me and like all these things, and now like my
Yeah.
character's having a change of heart mid game and stuff like that. The fact that he's super young, like now playing into it and like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna change things up. I'm gonna go try and rescue him.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it was good because, like, especially whenever you think of something like PvP, you naturally think of antagonists. Just going
Mhm.
at it, WWE style, ECW, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so it's like a nice change of pace for someone to be like, super ultra positive. To the point where like
Mhm.
you could, even though they're trying to kill you, you could probably use them on your resume for a job application.
Good job,
Yes.
buddy. That was a good hit.
Yes.
Exactly,
I'm
yeah.
so proud of you. I have
Yep.
expected you to give him like a thumbs up as you floated down below the surface. Like,
I know,
you
right?
did good, buddy.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
Reminds me of the off topic, we're kind of on topic, but it reminds me of the guy on TikTok who does the arm wrestling, but he like whispers encouraging things to his opponent the whole time. He's like, he's just like leaning over the table. He's like, "You're so strong. You're a big guy. You're a strong guy." He's just like the whole time. But they're like professional arm wrestlers. But he's just like encouraging him.
Really going at it.
He's like, yeah, let me. He's like, give it to me. Go ahead. Push. Like he's just like,
Looks real good. Yeah,
Encouragement.
keep flexing it.
Yeah.
You're almost there. Keep just
Please
push a little bit
stop.
harder.
God, you're so strong. Man, you're strong. He's just like he just
Man,
whispers
you're
it.
strong. I
I'll
love
have
that.
to send it to you because it's
Yeah.
funny.
You
It's-
both will love that. But
That's amazing.
again, I think it shows, especially as DMs, because you all mentioned like you don't get to play as
Yeah.
often. Like it's your chance to be like, I wanted to see this player or this type of character out on the board. I see how some
Yeah.
of these can pull together. That this was your chance, and it didn't disappoint. You both were absolutely fantastic
Mhm.
at bringing some of the weirdest
my
things we've
tactic
seen.
to run away constantly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it,
Only to be
I
caught
like
up
that
with.
grew though.
yeah, the stars aligned because
Yes.
Dan and I know each other. We've like played in games together and everything like
Mhm.
that. So when I knew that he was going to be the one to play with me, I was like, oh, I feel safe. I know. I hopefully he feels good with this too. If I see the X, I'll absolutely stop all this flirting. But like
Yes.
but I feel
Yes.
Flirt away, friend.
If
Flirt
because if it
away.
was someone I didn't know, then I'd be like, all right, new character. We're gonna go safe. It's gonna be a square box,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then like
Well, and
not to offend.
and
that-
peek behind the curtain a bit. When we approach people to be on the show, we typically look for people who know each other in some way, who have maybe played together
Yes.
before or seem like they know each other, even if
Yeah.
maybe they don't do things all the time. We do look for that because it's better for everybody. You're more comfortable playing with someone you know. You already have those
Yeah.
boundaries established, especially coming in. Everyone's, if everyone's new, you got to like feel at the table and.
Well, you're
And-
definitely knocking out an issue like right off the bat is table
Yeah.
dynamics. Like if you know that they've done things before and they've been well in that thing that they've done before, you're knocking out that one right out of the box, like before the show
Yeah.
even starts.
Yeah.
And that's super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or even
especially if-
being thoughtful, because sometimes when we pull new people in this space, we're like, okay, who's going to be someone that is new person friendly, who's not going to get
Sure.
upset if they play some of the cards wrong,
Exactly. Yeah.
like it is, you're right. It's like, how do we find people that are going to support each other in the best way that brings out the best in both?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah,
D'Angelo, I
especially
cut
there's-
you off earlier. Yeah.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, because there's that term bleeding where if there's actual like the actor or the performer has raw feelings that they're starting to bring into the game or whatever, that can get really weird with especially with PvP, something so intimate where it's like
Mhm.
there's one winner, one loser, sort of thing, and you have an audience to showcase how good you are at the game or whatever, despite the crazy circumstances. So I can definitely see people being sore, and even like for things to get weird, because influencers are very spicy. It's very like, touchy,
Right.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. So it's good to like, actually find people that work well together.
Mhm.
Because like Dan said, it absolutely eliminates that issue right off the table. Because it's like, whatever, I get to play with Dan and I get to play D&D. So it's awesome. Good night.
Yes.
Already
Yeah.
a win.
And luckily we
Yeah.
haven't had to worry too much about that, honestly, because everyone we try to vet people and pick people that are gonna be
Who are
open.
good losers.
Yeah,
are the
good
ones-
losers.
Yeah.
I think
know.
that's a great way to
yeah.
look at it. No,
Yeah.
seriously, that
Yeah.
is a great way to look at it.
Mhm. Those are the people who are going to have fun at your table no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Mhm.
had
Exactly.
some of the most impressive things to us as like DMs are we have some people that come in and roll nothing but nat ones all night, and how they they turn it
Feel
and
like
they make it
me
a
for like,
they make it a good story though. They don't get sore about it. That's always really impressive to us. We're like, wow, they rolled like shit all night, but they still managed to make it a cool story. They didn't take it
Yeah.
personally. They didn't, like they were a
That's talent.
professional about it, which was super nice. So
Mhm.
we're always very, we do our homework on people before we like say, who's gonna fit and be good in this setting. So
Yeah.
When
which
can
I
you're
the
think-
four
watching-
of us put together a panel on trust at building
Yeah.
trust?
I feel like I feel like we're actually having
Send
one.
it to
right
Gen
now.
Con.
I was like,
I can
this is really
totally-
good. We should
Yeah,
propose this.
Because like I've had people block me for the weirdest reasons, and beating the shit out of them in like a D&D game is like something that I feel like would happen if they weren't
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
with like
Yes.
Sure.
Let's propose this sometime. Let's find out what
Right?
con we can go to.
I love
Yeah.
talking on panels, and I love talking about, like, what we do, because it's one of my favorite things, because it's an unspoken rule, or it's an unspoken thing if it isn't brought up, because, like, we play TTRPGs, they don't see what we we are truly thinking behind the scenes. They don't think about, like, all the things that go into it and stuff like that, and all the thoughts. I mean, like, the process just for you vetting players, I'm
Yes.
sure could be a full-on topic
Yes.
about how you go about doing so. And so that's what I'm trying to say, is, like, these conversations need to be had, because the group, or the community, is only growing. It's only getting bigger. More and more people are wanting to do it. More new people are being brought in. So to be able to give them a baseline, like, this is kind of how it's done, or should be done, like, that's huge.
Yes.
So I love being a part of that.
And honestly, I think it goes beyond that, of just not like, hey, we need to teach people, but it's important to be proactive, or else that's when games become very dangerous.
Yeah.
And like, for
Preventative.
individuals, preventive. It does, because I mean, I love reading the drama, but like on Reddit, like when I read of TTRPG horror stories, half the time I'm like, oh my, I would never play again after some of them play like this. Like, no joke. They're
Yeah.
horrifying, because they don't have trust. They don't know any of the other players. Even in established players, I've hear horror stories, because they just pull together
Oh,
people
yeah.
who they think are talented, but they don't think about style or comfort levels, or even
Or
giving them a
session
session zero.
zero,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so how do
Table
we?
cohesion, man.
Yes,
Table
it's so
cohesion.
important.
Well, you have to think about a lot of different aspects of that. Like, sometimes it's the content. Like, we tend to have some gore on here, so we have to think about who's going to be comfortable with gore, who's going to be comfortable with adult language, who's going to be comfortable with killing each other, and, like, not every episode can have everybody falling in love and running off and being happy. Even though we've had some of the endings like that.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes people just have to get their heads sawed off. You know what I mean? And so,
Sure.
like, some people
It's-
aren't meant for this table, because they that's not how they
Yeah.
roll, and you have to
And it's good that
be
you
mindful of
use
that.
Yeah, it's good that you use that form, beforehand, before you even get to the point where you're on screen. You have to agree to be like, hey, are there any boundaries we should be aware of? Because we will respect them,
Yeah.
And that already creates a safe environment, and feels like, all right, cool, I can, perform here, and everything's gonna be cool, because they're gonna take care of me, so they won't include anything that's, I deem to be my, lines and veils and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's good. Yeah. That's a lot of care and consideration.
Yeah, and it goes for anything. Like, I'll be honest, there'll probably be times like romance. There are very clear lines of like what I feel comfortable with, and who,
Yes.
and how that goes into.
Sure.
Like, so like with any kind of story that we're telling, I think it seems easy with violence, right? I think like even Game of Thrones kind of points it out, like when people feel uncomfortable, like they didn't like the sexual violence of things. And sometimes when you get into romance stories and villains within those spaces, those can get very aggressive. And sometimes people are okay with violence and they don't think anything of it. But it doesn't matter what people might feel or you think people are comfortable with. Test those anyway and ask.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's true.
You have to. You have to. And that's hard. It's hard to do because it feels like it's one more thing, and it could cut people that are amazing out from being at your table, but it's knowing that I respect them more as a player and making sure that they thrive than having them here. I will find
Have a
other
bad experience or
opportunities to play
anything.
with
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
exactly.
So,
That's a good
Well,
point.
we like to end this, and we could probably sit here and talk
So
about this
much.
all night, honestly, and I probably would, but we usually like to end this thing. We're gonna wrap it up. In this thing with a piece of advice, although I feel like we've just had a bunch of advice, but like it could be a last piece of a catchphrase, or a piece of advice, or whether it's D&D related or life related from your character. It doesn't really matter. Just like a last sentiment to the acolytes out there who are watching. Serious, funny, doesn't matter. Last thoughts? Any takers?
I'll go. Yep.
Yeah, go for it.
So there's been a lot of, and this is bringing up something that just recently happened, but there's been a lot of discourse about content creation and people in the space playing Dungeons and Dragons specifically, but all TTRPGs in general have this kind of situation with people and content creators. Just know that content creators are people too. They are not like the corporate shills that a lot of people might think they are. But what I really want to like bring to the table is the fact that each and every one of us are wonderful and individual, and we bring something new to the table every time you start a game. And I just want everybody to know that no matter what people say, or do or put on the internet, as long as you know you are a good person, then that's really all that matters. And that it's my mantra since I started streaming back a million years ago, as we were talking, has always keep being your best self. So just always be your best self, no matter what it is. Always be your best self.
Cheers. Cheers to that.
That's awesome. For me, it would be for any new players or current players in TTRPGs, whether it be Vampire the Masquerade, D&D, whatever. I find out of my many years of being a dungeon master and everything that players find the most enjoyment out of their games when they play a character that they genuinely enjoy. Essentially, maybe it's mechanically, that's cool too. But more so of the role play sort of aspect. Like, for example, tonight I played a character who got killed and everything, but it was still a satisfying and fun adventure because it was someone who had a little bit of depth, and there were a lot of aspects about him that you could point to, like he did have celiac disease and he became a paladin, no longer has that, and then he has romantic feelings towards bug people, and then all these sort of weird things that makes this person an actual character that you can see and feel and and all that kind of stuff. So, and that's very enjoyable for me because I had a really great time tonight being able to play that character. Even though they died, still a great time. And I encourage everyone else to play flawed characters, look for those depths. They don't always have to be a perfect champion hero that's all cool edgelord. They can be flawed, and that's still a beautiful, wonderful experience. So yeah.
Perfect.
Here.
Well said. Well, we will see everybody on the next episode of D20 Deathmatch.